title it? I said, "What's going on with Netflix and their magic pills?" I thought that was pretty that was pretty funny because there seems to be something there. I mean, like Netflix has a pill, like a
Yeah, they
magic
do.
pill
They have
sort
a
of
pill
thing.
problem. And like you said, this isn't even a Netflix original. So imagine my confusion when I see that the
Yeah,
plot for this revolves around pills. I'm like, what the hell? Like,
yeah,
what's going to happen in like a couple months? What's the next? So first we got pills that can give superpowers. Then we got pills that can do time travel, you know? And the shitty thing is that all of these movies seem to be like building up to franchises that we kind of know are not going to happen because Netflix just has no interest at all in like continuing anything. They're very much like hitting the zeitgeist, which given the time period and given like kind of people's attention spans, like I can't really blame them for that, you know? So I guess it's kind of what I want to get into is like kind of the intricacies of this movie and kind of like what the actual pills do. So basically the way that this works is that so Mackie and Dornan basically they're going around to all these different like murder sites, right? Murder accidental sites, right? And for a few of them seem to be just like some basic drug overdoses, but then they seem to discover that like certain of their victims like spontaneously combusted out of nowhere. And basically what they come to learn is that this pill called Synchronic that they can ingest, as is explained today, I'll admit a kind of very forced exposition scene. I've made it clear before, I'm not a fan of characters that are literally only there to spit out exposition. But I mean, just given the very short amount of runtime, it's very clear that a character like this was necessary with that doctor character who comes out of nowhere and basically explains the entire plot to Mackie, which is that these pills, which is an experimental drug, what's it called? Crafted in a lab, obviously, a designer drug, that's the word that I'm looking for, basically uses these fumes from this specific red flower that comes from a very specific part of the world. Basically, the pill, rather than make it seem like your mind is traveling through time while your body remains stationary, the pill quite literally transports you to a different time period based on your location. Now, again, in a bigger movie that would probably have had a bigger budget and more time in order to flesh this out, they probably would have gotten into some of the more intricacies as like how each location specifically relates to where you're going to travel to and kind of what's it called? And like what the specifics of each person are as far as what will cause you to travel, and also like the only really specific thing that they can get into as far as what allows certain people to time travel versus what doesn't is that he basically and this is how it involves Mackie, which is that the pituitary gland, which becomes calcified and hardened once you become an adult, once you've like kind of reached your full maturity wise, while it is still growing and developing with you as a teenager, obviously while you're the most susceptible to drugs, that is what allows you to come back after 7 minutes. But the older you get, obviously, it becomes easier for you to become trapped, obviously, in the past. And obviously, they break down the different rules as far as the different time travel. Like, if you touch a certain thing, it'll allow you to become solidified. You know, only solid matter can come back if it touches you and everything. But, like, I don't know, Chris. Like, what are your thoughts on that overall? Because it was a lot that was dropped, but it also felt like there could have been, like, so much more, you know? But again, like, just because of, you know, stuff that was cut for time as far as the budget goes.
Yeah, well, I totally agree that that doctor character had so much potential. I really actually enjoyed the actor in that role. He kind of played the part well, sort of the zany, crazy doctor who regrets what he did. And I think maybe that's one of the unfortunate circumstances of having such big name stars in such a sort of tiny production where you didn't really get to explore certain things the way that you might have wanted to. His character being one of those specific instances, whereas he definitely was just, hey, exposition man, here he is, zany doctor with crazy haircut who regrets what he did, quick 5-10 minutes in and out, bam, you're back to these crazy pills. And so yeah, the thing about the pills is it's a really cool premise. I actually thought the way that Anthony Mackie's character sort of went about sort of exploring, like, okay, if I sit here, it's going to bring me back to the Ice Age. If I sit here, it's going to bring me back to, this like tribal setting. I think it was like somewhere in Africa, and like he almost got killed by like an ancient like tribe or something. So it was very interesting. I actually thought that they did a good job in regards to exploring a few of the different scenarios. Like they even had a conquistador scenario where he comes into the middle of a swamp and the exact plot of land where he's sitting in. I think it was New Orleans area, Louisiana type area where his house was built on. Hundreds of years ago, there was a swamp and this conquistador was fighting an alligator, and it was interesting. It was cool because it's like one of those time travel films where, we're not talking about time travel too much. We're not getting bogged down with the rules. We're not getting bogged down with, like, okay, if we do this, this is going to happen. So you have to be extra careful. Like, it was a little more fun and free flowing, but also that's not to say that it wasn't structured and well thought out, because I thought it was really well thought
Right.
out. And there was consequences to the actions, especially with how he only had a certain amount of those pills left. And so it's like very interesting because, like, while those are all compliments and things that I really enjoyed about the film, just something about it keeps it from being a great movie, whereas I thought it could have been a great movie. It was just like a good, really good fun ride,
Yeah.
but it's going to be quickly in one ear and out the other, for
Yeah.
lack of better words. But what's your take on all that?
No, I agree with you because that's always seems to be Netflix's modus operandi, which is that if they're not willing to throw a blank check at a big name director, it's like pretty much just, oh, small limited budget in order to like get your name out there, in one ear out the other.
Hmm.
Maybe you'll go on to do something else. And
Yeah.
as far as the whole time travel aspect of it, I mean, we'll get into that in a little bit, but I mean, just the logistics of it, it's like, okay, I mean, obviously we've seen all different sorts of time travel aspects, most of them usually involving some type of machinery. And in this sense, you literally just pop a pill and all of a sudden you're in a different time period. Like, come on. I need a little bit more of an explanation than just, I just got it. I just mixed it with this like essence from this red flower from this specific part of the world. Like, which part of the world? Even if they had just done like a quick scene that showed the doctor like traveling to that part of the world and showing that like, oh, this is like one of those like pocketed sects of the world that not a lot of people know about, that has this really weird mystical aura, and that has had a lot of people disappear. Like, even in that sense, like this movie was missing the lore building. All the pieces were there as far as this like nailing the rules of time travel, but not getting too bogged down to the point where it ends up kind of ruining the movie. Compelling enough characters, compelling enough stakes that allow you to remain invested without thinking that it's too goofy overall. My grandma, who I'm actually staying with, came in about halfway through the movie, and she was a little bit confused at first, but when you had the sequence where it's Mackie quite literally sitting in front of a camera and explaining it, I mean, it's certainly an easy way to get across exposition to an audience that has the attention span of a goldfish. So that whole part I thought was really well handled. But like you said, those are the parts that are missing that prevent this from being a great movie and only make this like a fun, entertaining, in the moment ride that you're going to forget about 10 minutes later.
Right, because I actually thought that sequence with Mackie sort of filming himself and figuring it out was really well done. It was one of the better of those types of sequences that you need when you're in a new world that has rules and laws that apply with sort of the mysticism of it. You need those types of scenes, and I thought it was very well done. It was interesting. It was engaging. Thought it was artistic, right? Going back to those different periods of time. We saw the mastodon in the Ice Age, and then he gets approached by someone who said was his age, looked just like him, but because of how harsh life was back then, he felt that he was probably 10 years younger than him, but looked 100 years older than him. And so that was really cool. Like, it did some awesome things. And then I actually thought, like, the whole beginning when he gets told he has this cancer, which is a rare sort of tumor in his pineal gland, and his pineal gland is soft, it never calcified. Like, that all was pretty interesting. But I guess it's a compliment to the movie that I'm going to say this. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to get more invested. Like, I thought that there, especially in the third act, needed to be more of a journey recovering the best friend's daughter, Brianna. Like, I really wanted to go on a ride, and it felt like we had these really cool snapshots of each of the different places he traveled back to, and they were only about 4 or 5 minutes each. We never really left that initial setting. I'm sure a lot of that is budget. I'm sure a lot of that is time. And hey, look, I get it, man. It was a festival film that I think went farther than it ever could have imagined to have gone. But it just sucks because there's so much really cool here and intriguing. And look, how many films have we seen where 7 minutes takes up a half hour?
Yeah.
Like, we could have really explored that. I know with this whole pill, you have 7 minutes to go in, and you have to get back to the part where you originally, so you're anchored because you can't go too far away from the original part where you time traveled from, because then you might not be able to get back. Point in
Right.
case the end of the film.
Well, also for me, the most heartbreaking element of the movie when he has to when the dog gets left behind, which for
Yeah,
me, I'm sorry, like him not almost coming back was sad at the end, but like that dog that almost broke me. I'm like, oh man,
dude,
I knew it was
he
gonna
left the
happen.
dog with KKK people.
Oh,
I mean, that
oh,
was like, oh man, that hurt. That
yeah,
was just for
that was
so many
depressing on
reasons.
so many different levels.
I was just like, "Oh my god, poor dog. Like, I hope they at least take
Yeah,
care of him." Like, that sucks, man. I would hate he didn't have enough pills though. Like, he's a
that's what
good
I
dude. He
mean.
wanted to go back. He just I mean, I get it. You gotta
Animals
save
have
your
more value than
niece.
human beings. You can drop as many human beings as you want in a movie, but the minute an animal gets harmed, run,
Yeah.
you're done.
And so I was gonna say I think they did the emotional tie-ins of this film right. That's where I was gonna go with it, like with the dog and with Brianna. But I just thought that because of the whole being anchored to a spot and the budget of the film, we didn't really get to explore each set of 7 minutes the way I would have wanted to. But
No,
yeah, I don't know. That's kind of all I have left on the Netflix
you're
magic
totally
pill
right.
section. If you do,
You're totally right about that. And just my whole thing with it is that it's definitely a situation of where like the filmmakers probably had like this awesome idea that probably I wouldn't be surprised if it had like a ton more stuff involved that they would have wanted to flesh out if they had wanted to like maybe save this and maybe thought that it was going to be like picked up as like a series maybe. But it definitely like you said, it got picked up. It got way more attention than they probably ever thought that it would have, because again, these guys that we're going to talk about obviously in our next section are no slouches. Obviously these guys have had 3 movies so far that have all hit tremendously well at festivals overall, that being Resolution in 2012, VHS Viral and Spring in 2014, and then this movie The Endless in 2017. So like these guys have been making the rounds as far as festivals go and doing everything that like first-time directors should do, and it's clearly paying off because as we're going to talk about in this next section, these guys are definitely going to be guys to look forward to. Like, this is not going to be the last time we're going to be talking about these guys. So before,
true.
of course, we jump into the next section, be sure, of course, to click the subscribe button, click the bell next to it, and let us know in the comments below if you've gotten a chance to watch Synchronic yet and what your thoughts are.